Now, why did I do a half bend here? This is something else you have to keep in mind when you're soloing. If you're going to do bends or slides or anything, you always have to keep the notes in key. Well, the reason I did a half bend on the 4th fret is that the next note in the scale was a half step ahead of it. That's critical. Remember that. Whenever you bend a note, you have to make sure you bend it to at least the next note in the scale. If you want to go beyond that to the note after that, that's fine as well. But you don't want to bend a note out of key. That sounds very amateurish. Don't do it. Okay, so pattern or lick 1. Okay, that's lick 1. That's what it sounds like. Now, the way you can embellish on that is you can do that exact same lick with different rhythms. I might play it like this. Or I might do this. Or a whole variety of different rhythms. Basically, play it with different rhythms. Try it, see if you can make that lick in 5 different rhythms. And do that for each one of your licks, and all of a sudden you're going to realize you've got 5 different licks because each rhythm sounds different. Another way to embellish on that is to maybe take what I did and add some notes to it, whether at the beginning or the end, but I might say, okay, I did up to there. Now I might take that 4th fret on the 3rd string like we talked about and slide up to the 5th fret. Sounds cool. All right, let's take a look at our second lick. Our second lick has some triplets and some hammer-ons on it, or in it. Sounds like this. Now, notice that I'm in pattern 2 now. And all I did was I did triplets, 5, hammer to 6, pull off to 5. And then I went to 7 on the 3rd string, 5, back to 7, and then hit it again and bend up the full step. Why a full step? Again, the full step is the next note in the scale. That goes into pattern 3. Now we can play that instead of doing triplets, we could just do a quick hammer-on. Or three different rhythms. Again, make as many different rhythms as possible, but you'll come up with these cool little licks. Now, if I were to add something to that, I went to the 2nd string, 5, 6, 5, and I just hit 6 and slid up to 8. So again, you just tweak these little licks, and the more you do that, the more different licks you're going to come up with. Let's take a look at the pattern 3 lick. Now, if you notice pattern 3, notice that on the 1st string, I did a half bend on the 7th fret because the next note in the scale was up to 8. And on the 2nd string, I did a full bend on the 8th fret because the next note in the scale was 10, a full step. So again, the bends are really critical. I want you to pay attention to those. If we do a different rhythm on that, or whatever. Again, you want to make up just different licks. That last one was pretty weak. I suck, sorry. All right, so that was pattern 3 lick. And again, make different licks off that. I might add to it. Or whatever, add a note. I added a note right there. For those of you that were paying attention, you could have busted me. I played an out of key note right there. What I was doing was I was trying to throw in pattern 2's lick with pattern 3, but it didn't work because it was out of key. So I got busted. I blew it also. That's why you got to practice a lot. All right, the next part, pattern 4. Let's take a look at this lick. This is a cool one. I like this one a lot. We're going to move up a little bit with hammer-ons. We're going to do the 9 to 10 on the 4th string, 9 to 12, all hammer-ons, 10 to 13. Then we're going to bend the 12th fret up a half step to 10, and then 12. Now we might do a different rhythm on that. It might sound like this. That was a nice one. Sweet. Redemption. All right, so that's another lick, and again, you can add to this just like we did the previous ones. Let's take a look at the last one, pattern 5's lick. Sounds like this. So, yeah. Here's a little bit of a string skip. Repeating a lick. So it sounds like this. Might change the rhythm. And again, you want to go back and add to that. And then what you can ultimately do is try to combine those licks. Now, for each one of those licks, what I did was I just took notes that were out of the scale and I played with them until I came up with something that sounded a bit melodic. And that's all I'm asking you guys to do with your scales. Don't just run your scale patterns up and back or come up with just a short little run. Try to come up with something that sounds melodic. And the more that you do this, what you're going to find is you're going to start to hear what you're playing before you play it. And that's going to be a really good thing, because then you'll know what's coming out and you can plan for it, and you can basically get what's in your head down to your fingers and out on the fingerboard, and that would be something great for you. So you want to practice this a lot. Throw on the backing tracks that I made for you and just do your scales as much as possible. Try these licks, make up your own licks, and then also just practice running your scales for pure technique. Now, the last thing I want to tell you is a really cool technique called random sequencing. And what random sequencing is where you sit down and you just look at notes that are in the scales. And you do this, pretty much I do it, when I used to do it a lot, was on tablature. I would have the scales written out in front of me and I'd just say, okay, 3rd fret, 4th string. And I'd write that on a clean piece of the tab and I write, okay, 3rd fret, 4th string. Then I do 8th fret, 2nd string, which was pattern 2. And I just randomly grab notes out of the different patterns and make up these licks. And I would basically come up with licks that I would never ever think of physically playing. But once you see them on paper all random out and you go and learn how to play them, really challenges you to use the right fingers and to find comfortable ways to play them, and also interesting rhythms. So a lot of those licks won't sound that great because they are random, but you will come across some cool ideas, and physically you'll get some great practice out of it. So as far as your improvisation, let's do a quick recap. We're going to practice the 5 licks I gave you. You're going to try each one of those with 5 different rhythms, and then you're also going to try to add to each one of the licks. And then last, you're going to try random sequencing, where you make up your own licks completely randomly. One other thing, actually, I just thought of it, we'll make it a further point here, would be to take the licks that I gave you and try to play from one to another. Kind of mix them up and match them. Let me try that real quick. Let's see what that sounds like. I have the background track here on the loop station, and here's what it sounds like. And that's pretty much all 5 of the licks put together. I changed the rhythms a little bit to kind of let them mesh together. But again, try that and then try to maybe go from lick 1 to lick 3, lick 2 to lick 4, etc., etc. All right, you got it. Let's move on to the mailbag.